Welcome to Building a Brand with Local Grown Creatives, a weekly podcast where we'll be diving into our story building LGC and all the tips and tricks that will help you succeed on social media. My name is Diego, the co-founder of LGC, and this is,
I'm Ash. I'm the other co-founder here at Local Grown Creatives.
and we're super excited to dive into our first podcast. With that being said, hit us with the first question, Ash.
All right, Diego. So I got a question for you. A lot of people have been asking, what is the origin story of Local Grown Creatives?
So Local Grow Creatives actually started back in 2020 under a different business name and brand name altogether. It was actually called Local Grow Stories. And in that business, the whole goal was to publish business owners' stories during the pandemic. A couple buddies and I noticed that the businesses around us were struggling during the pandemic. Many had to shut their doors for good. And so ultimately, we decided to interview them, share their story, and shed some light at what it looks like to actually have a business throughout the pandemic. Since then, we've interviewed over 200 business owners. We learned a little bit more about their struggles, their pain points when it came to actually market themselves online. Many of them either didn't know how to begin on social media, they didn't know what type of content to create, they were just lost altogether. And that's when Ash and I actually teamed up and decided to launch LGC to help businesses scale through content creation and social media marketing. It's been a crazy journey these past 5 years, full of ups and downs, and I'm super excited to actually get into some of that. Um, but yeah, that's the little tidbit of LGC is that it started as a storytelling platform. And that's part of our big push at LGC still. We want to make sure that we're connecting audiences, we're connecting our communities with our stories. And that's what pushes us to actually keep creating. Ready?
Yeah,
So, next question, Ash. Next question, Ash. What were you doing before we actually launched LGC? Tell us a little bit about your background.
shoot. Taking it back before LDC. Um, I was working at a nonprofit in Santa Cruz. I was doing community engagement and marketing. And the thing about that is that it kind of shaped me to like who I am today, or it was like a stepping stone to like who I am today. In that position, I was wearing many hats. So that's where I got to learn a lot about business logistics, public speaking, writing, email marketing, how to talk to people, relationships, and fundraising, which is essentially sales. Although I was like at a place that didn't fulfill me creatively, it really taught me how to run a business basically, like all the basic skills, you know? So I was like even managing interns, I was running programs, and I really got to like learn a lot of stuff. And I feel like it was an essential part to building local grown creatives for sure. Like it helped me build my confidence, relationship skills, and I got a deep understanding of like what the power community is. And I mean, this is something that is essential to like who we are as a brand, who we are as just like friends, and how we were able to launch LGC um, in a fun and engaging way. But yeah, tell me, Diego. I know you were back in Denver when I was in Santa Cruz, and we were, I mean, talking every single day. Tell me a little bit of background of like where you were at, and share that with the world.
So similar to Ash, I think we're in completely different fields than what we're doing now, but the lessons that we learned throughout our former careers are now still applied, right? For me, it was actually as an educator. I taught fourth grade for 2 years out in Denver. And through that lesson or through that experience, I learned a lot of valuable lessons. Patience being one of them with fourth graders, obviously. Two, being able to break down big concepts. I was a science teacher and linguistics teacher, so I had to be able to break down these big terms in small and digestible like tidbits for students to actually grasp. That ultimately taught me how to educate, how to lead in the classroom. And then I ended up doing software sales for a couple months right after that. I got to cold call, I got to build relationships with contractors and learn about how to actually sell and market yourself as far as like products go. I think from that lesson, I took how to develop thick skin, how to take no and rejection and be able to apply the lessons to the next person, the next call that it actually had. But ultimately, all those skills transferred to now what we're doing with LGC. I know Ash mentioned like a big part of what we do is sales. And all those experiences that we've had, I think, have taught us how to actually build relationships, get in front of the right people, and build genuine connections. Because there's a lot of people that have creative agencies, right? There's people that are doing exactly what we're doing. Maybe they have even fancier tech, maybe they even have higher resources. But I think what separates us is our lived experiences as educators, as people in the nonprofit world, as salespeople. And I think putting all those things together has made for building LGC kind of like the perfect recipe, the perfect formula, assembling the Krabby Patty of sorts, you could say. But with that being said, Ash, what inspired you to make that leap of faith? Why did you go from the nonprofit world to launching LGC? 'Cause that's a completely different ballgame, right? One, you're an
Bro,
employee, you're at five. It is a lot of work, but heading into the actual entrepreneurial path is day and night, right?
yeah. No, dude, like, I mean, we both know we were so unfulfilled of like where we're at, and we were looking, doing our own side projects. You with local grown stories. And me, I started getting into photography and content creation. Um, and then I realized that it was a true passion of mine of just like, taking photos, doing creative things. Um, and I knew that that was something that was going to lead me because I just felt so unfulfilled at the nonprofit sector, like yes, it gave me the opportunities, but I knew that there was something more. Like I just wanted to go out there and like do more, like we both had that feeling. And so, I mean, going back and forth with you being over there and trying to grow local grown stories, and then also you sharing how these people's lives were getting changed by just sharing the publication that you were doing and just sharing their story. We, I don't know, we both kind of put two and two together of bringing your storytelling, skills and my creative skills into one. And that's how we were able to create local grown creatives. And I mean, I feel like we both had that entrepreneurial spirit, right? Like we're both in high school selling chips. We weren't competition, but we're working collaboratively to like give the people what they want, basically. Like you had one side of like the chips, like the hot chips, and I had like the other regular chips. So I don't know, it was something that I knew that we could both build together, and it was a risk that I was down to make, and honestly, it was the best decision that I could have made. But
I love that you
yeah,
mentioned that.
tell me you on like your end. I know we have similar kind of story and passion for that. But yeah, tell me
Yeah,
what really drove you.
as you mentioned, we've always been entrepreneurial, whether that was in middle school selling chips and candy all the way up to high school, finding ways to plan parties, for example, with the PPC. We were always trying to coordinate events, actually sell things, and be entrepreneurial. I think part of the spirit ended up kind of fading throughout college because we're like, oh shoot, the real world is coming. We have to take it seriously. We have to go into a 9 to 5 and conform to what society tells us. But I think in the back of our brains, we're always like, we still wanted to scratch that itch of being creative and being entrepreneurs. Launching LGS for me was eye-opening, right? Talking to all these different business owners that came from different spectrums. They could have been from wealth and they started this business because it was a passion project, or they could have been starting from the ground up with zero resources. They all had a story to share. And when I started thinking about their story, it didn't sound a lot different than my story building LGS. I think going from being an educator, telling these fourth graders that they can accomplish any dream that they set their mind to, but on the back end, I was feeling like there was a dream, an itch that I needed to scratch entrepreneurially that I wasn't fulfilling. So on one hand, I felt like I was encouraging these kids to chase their dreams, but I wasn't much older than them. I was 21 in the classroom. They were like 10. I could have been their older brother. I felt like the younger me still had dreams to live out. And talking to you, Ash, was really instrumental to actually building our agency, right? We've grown up together, we've experienced life in different perspectives, but at the end of the day, having each other to count on one another when times are difficult, when we felt like maybe we didn't have the skill set to actually launch our own business, it was really important to have you there to actually like it's like we both jumped together, you know? We cliff jumped together and we're like,
Yeah, we both went for it. We said, "Fuck it, let's go."
figure it out. Let's find a way to build our wings as we're falling out this airplane, right? And I think
Yeah,
it's crazy to think like if we hadn't taken a chance in our early 20s, what would we be doing right now, right?
yeah. I think an essential part to that was like we also didn't have any plan B, right? Like we just had that plan A and we were gonna make it work no matter what. I feel like when you have, well, Alex and Moses said, when you have like nothing else to lose, that's when it's like you're dangerous, like you're untouchable, because you literally have nothing. And thankfully, we had like our families that we were able to be there and support us during this time. But I feel like that was the best decision that we could have made.
Yeah,
Um,
it's awesome.
So, I mean, Diego, you time and time again, I feel like a lot of people know you as like the big storyteller, and I even just starting with local grown stories and just your passion for interviewing people and knowing what people are about and just being a longtime learner. So, I guess knowing that, how when did storytelling actually become like a key component into not marketing yourself but also like as a brand or like as a business? I know that you probably got that from local grown stories, but like can you really like tell me what's the importance of storytelling?
Yeah, I think for me, storytelling has been a way I've bonded with my dad, my grandfather before him. They're all great storytellers and they're able to make people laugh and paint a picture through the words that they say. So for me, building that like storytelling skill set, it really came down from my dad, my grandfather, my abuelito in Mexico, sitting down with him, interviewing him, asking him questions about what life was like in the early 1900s. And being able to connect with people with story has always been important for me and also my dad. And I think after having lost my grandfather a few years ago, I realized that storytelling was a way to keep his I guess, aura and spirit alive through my life, right? He may not be here anymore, but with the stories that I share and the stories that I collect from all those around me, it's a way to cherish his memories and make sure that storytelling lives long after me, right? The goal is to be able to inspire people to change their lives through the stories that we share. And LGS was integral for me to actually shape my interview skills, how to talk to people, how to learn more about their lived experiences. And then when I started interviewing all these business owners, that's when I started learning from all their lived experiences, right? It's what mistakes did they make? What partnerships did they mess up on? How can we avoid those, right? And as soon as we realize that the power of storytelling is more than just the words that we say, it's the feelings that you get, it's the lessons that you learn, you're unstoppable, right? So applying that same storytelling aspect to LGC has been integral for us to grow because that's how we connect with people. We may not have all the resources, but we're gritty and we care so much about your story and your brand. It's almost like we treat it as if it was our own. And the only way we do that is by actually investing the time to learn more about who you are as a person and what inspired you to actually launch your own brand. And I think that's what makes us different than a lot of creative agencies because we really learn about your business, learn about your goals, and take care of your brand as if it were our own, right? I know for you, Ash, you had to like pretty much pitch these people built in the nonprofit world, right? How have you seen those skills transfer to you as a co-founder of LVC?
I feel like a lot of that when I was in that position, I had to like, talk to a lot of big conchos, so like the big CEOs, the people that are owning hospitals, the people from Netflix, like even the CEO of Netflix, the chancellor at UC Santa Cruz. It's just about connecting with story. And I think that's why I even worked at a nonprofit, right? Like I wanted to make a difference. And the way that you I was able to convey my story as a person, like going through United Way, actually getting the resources and things provided from United Way, me as a child into like growing up, like the free backpack, school supplies, everything, people were able to connect with that more and really got to see like who I was as a person. And that's why they were able to, one, trust me, and two, like give me their money, basically. So, I mean, a lot of that was just like, yeah, storytelling. And that's why it's an essential key part to like anything in business. And that's how we were able to like kind of drive forward. So like you and I, like both similar, we drive with passion and story, and that's what relates with people the most.
Yeah, I think something I want to shine a light on is your growth through the business as well. I remember back in the nonprofit world, you would kind of get nervous doing public speaking, or you'd be like, "Oh, damn, I'm not ready for this," or you just kind of feel super nervous, right? Now into being a business owner, I feel like it's been the ultimate personal growth tool for you, right? Where now you could talk to strangers and you don't feel like gun shy where you used to back in the day. Is there any moment where that like switched for you?
I think it was actually doing something that I loved. I mean, I loved working at the nonprofit, but it just felt something different when it was just connected to you. I think you really need to hone into that, and especially like if you're working at a place that you don't feel connected towards, or you don't see growth in, or you don't see yourself in your CEO shoes in like 5 years, then it's probably not the place for you. I think being in that position, I was able to kind of just shy away from that and know that this was like my position and my place. And it was easier to sell, it was easier to put my energy and passion into. And that's what actually made the difference. It's like you find that little thing that makes you tick and makes you want to like just blab about like all day, and that's what will help you. And of course, practice. It's like there's been many times that during our early days that we were just taking turns going up to business owners, be like, "All right, I went to go sell. Now it's your turn," and then we learn from each other by just doing. Right? It's just a consistency of doing. And that's the only way that you're able to learn, just like with everything else.
I think that transitions to the next question perfectly, right? It's what early mistakes did we make and what did they teach us? Is there anything that you could think of that stands out?
Shoot. The first thing that, I mean, we're still learning this and evolving and doing this in our business, but we learned the importance of like charging based on value and our expertise versus just like on doing the work. We went through like so many months, so many years actually of it leading to burnout and doing too much for everyone, that and people didn't even like value our work, or we were working with people that we didn't really like fuck with, basically. um I feel like, yeah, one of the mistakes is definitely undercharging and not having the proper systems in place to actually scale and evolve. And yeah, we're still refining this lesson today. But I talked about undercharging and value. What's one that we both like went through while building LGC?
I think in the beginning, as you're starting out, it's okay to undercharge because you're learning your skill set. There came a point to our journey where it's like we were over delivering, and on the other side of the like table, it didn't seem like people actually valued the work that we were doing, or maybe there was a miscommunication. So that was definitely a lesson. But I think for me, the biggest thing is just because you're friends, that doesn't mean that you're going to be great business partners. And initially, we had high hopes for people in our community and we wanted them to grow with us. And we invested a lot of our time and energy into a relationship that wasn't mutually going both ways. Um, Ultimately, that allowed us to kind of anchor our growth and not be able to actually set our eyes on new targets because we felt like we were always carrying um, heavy weights on our back. As soon as we realized how important relationships and the key people to place in specific roles in your business were, we were able to actually relieve ourselves of all that stress. So I think the biggest thing is if you're thinking of starting your business with a best friend or a family member and you're like, we're great friends, that ultimately means we're going to be great business partners. That's not the case. I think Ash and I are a rare instance of it working out because we both have different skill sets and we're also a little bit different personally. So we're able to kind of bounce ideas off one another and know when to push and when to pull, understanding that as long as we're giving our all every single day, we're going to grow. Um, but the biggest thing is your relationships. Don't sacrifice your friendships just because you think you're going to be great business partners. Um, but I think another thing is creating the systems. Ash, you touched up on this a little bit, but when you don't actually create systems, you're planning to fail, right? It's that old saying that goes, what's the what's the saying? I'm trying to think of the saying. What's the saying? Okay, I think it's something along those lines.
Yeah, yeah, wait, no, say it louder for the people in the back. I could not hear it.
I think I got it.
All right.
So here's the saying. When you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And when you hit the reverse with that and actually plan out every single detail of your business, how much money is coming in, how much money is going out, how are you delivering on the content that you're giving to your clients and your prospects, and then actually creating systems that allow you to actually be efficient with all that so that you could focus your eyes on things that are more important. A big part of that has been laying our eyes out on our gaps within the business. And I remember when we brought the vision back to life, because a lot of people don't know this, but LGC took a break for I think like 6 or 7 months. LGC took a break for like 6 or 7 months. I actually went on a side quest to be an online personal trainer. Ash stayed doing content and photography, but we split up for a little bit. It was like the boy band breaking up, right? Uh, when we came back together, we realized that where we were missing and where we were lacking is the systems, knowing what to expect from one another, and understanding that we needed to play into each other's strengths. Ash is great with the camera. She's an excellent like creative director and planning out all these content shoots. And my skill set is more like building relationships and getting out there and learning from people's businesses and actually providing value to them as well. Um, but the systems, the relationships, and having actual plans will allow you to be super successful in whatever business that you actually venture into.
So I guess going along with that, Diego, I mean, making the relationships and all the ones that you had with LGS and the ones that we have made throughout the past years, why do you think there was some people, even though we like had broken up, right? Why do you think that there were some people that still fuck with our work? Even though we haven't had like a big following, I know that we've been posting more valuable content, educational, and more about like our story and our brand. But why do you think people really followed us and wanted to learn more about LGC back in the days?
I think it's our passion and our hustle. Early on, we didn't have really the skill set to match where we're at now, but we had grit and we had determination. Um, I think you mentioned this a little bit ago, but we'd go door to door and ask people if they wanted a free video just for the sake of us getting in there and building a relationship. I think people saw that grit, they saw that hustle, and maybe they saw themselves as an early entrepreneur and trying to make ends meet, trying to figure things out. So it was almost like they were connected to our vision and our story, right? Because even though we didn't have the high tech gear, we didn't have all these fancy systems in place, we had that grit, we had the tenacity, and we led with passion and we led with a caring heart, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
I know we reiterate this over and over again, but we really care about your brand and we care about your message. So we take that seriously. And I think people saw that and they were like, you know what? I'm going to put my trust in them and allow them to create our vision on social media. What are your thoughts?
I feel like also they got to really see, oop, people got to really see who the real like Ash and Diego was and the other person, who they were, who we are like in person, as we were on video, and there was really no difference. I mean, that just helped us build one trust, and we were showing up every single day when people weren't. I know that local grown creatives, when we were going door to door, we were acting as kind of like a foodie page, and that's how we were kind of getting our clients, but also like putting into the things that we're passionate about, like their stories, who they were, their favorite dishes, whatever. Um, so people got to really see that, and then also we connected with a lot of people as well. There was a lot of people in our circle, a lot of relationships that we got to really make, and I think they also saw like the growth mindset that we both had, and that like again, we didn't have like that plan B, we were like, yeah, this is our thing and this is what we do, and that's it. We were confident in what we were and what we were trying to build even from the get-go. So I think that really set the foundation to like who we are and who we still are. And I really think that's, I mean, people were watching even though they weren't liking, commenting, whatever. Like they would tell us like either in person or they would kind of just be like, yeah, I know. They would like talk to us about like things that we did, and we're like, oh shoot, you were actually like watching our shit.
Yeah, that's actually a big thing that we didn't write in our questions, but might as well kind of talk about a little bit is when you're building your business, when you're building your brand, it's one of those things that you expect your family, you expect your friends to just show love and support outwardly because that's what you want. You want people to cheer you on, you want people to clap and root for you. But the reality is, you can't expect that of them. Everyone's on their own life journey, everyone has their own timelines. Everyone is worried about what's on their plate. They're worried and concerned about their own issues. But early on, it was kind of a shock. It's kind of like being dipped into a cold plunge. You're like, oh dang. The reality is, a lot of the time, your family and friends aren't going to be the first ones rooting for you. It's going to be those businesses that ultimately become clients and become friends along the way. And it was tough to actually like think about the lack of support initially, because then on one end you're like, dang, why is it that they're not showing love? Why is it they're not supporting? Why is it that they're not sharing our content? And it's coming from a place of selfishness. You're like, why aren't you supporting me? When you should flip it and understand that everyone has different things going on their plate. And if you were in it to make all these other people happy, then you wouldn't have even jumped into entrepreneurship. As soon as I made that realization that I'm like, the only person that needs to cheer me on, it's me, it clicked in my head where I'm like, all right, I don't care about this person's opinion about me. I don't care if they don't believe in my business. I don't care if they don't believe in my brand. I'm going to make it happen because the only person that needs to believe in me on this journey is me. All right. And I guess if, I don't know if you've had something similar, Ash, where you thought a lot more people would have been supportive or you thought more people would have been like clapping and cheering on the like sidelines, or was it more for you always internally driven where I'm like, I don't care what people are gonna say. It's all about me.
I feel like not only just with us, but like everyone has that internal feeling of like, oh shoot, like we're posting content and people are gonna like think stuff about me. And I think since we're posting content since like before for a long time, that thought really never came to like our head. And I remember even at first, I was even kind of thinking like, oh shoot, what are people gonna think about, me posting content, me starting this, or me quitting my job to do this like crazy, agency thing. And so those were like the thoughts and things that I was struggling with, because I'm more like behind the camera versus like being in front of the camera. But like over time, with putting in the reps, like, and just not giving a fuck, that's really what's helped me kind of just root on. And that's what it takes, that's kind of what it takes to be like on social, to market yourself and just be out there. Same thing again with like just selling our story and sharing our story. You just gotta like put it out there, because if you don't do it, then like nobody else will. You just gotta speak for who you are, what you believe in, and shit out to the world because there's a lot of people that are afraid to do what we're doing.
I love that. I think that that goes right into like the next question that we have here is what do you think the number one issue or what problems, I guess the question is, what problems do business owners currently face on social media?
The number one thing that we constantly go through is they struggle to share their story. A lot of it is that they just overthink it, and that's like the first barrier, you know? They just like get overwhelmed with like, oh shoot, I need to create the ideas, I need to have, my employees here. I don't even know what to create, where to start, what to do. It can become a bit overwhelming, but the thing is, all you need is consistency and your story. And just willing, the willing to start, You could start just with like the tools that you have with your iPhone, with your computer, and just that's it. A lot of people have made a lot of money and built their brands just by having their iPhone. So yeah. What are
That's
some of the things that you've seen? I know I kind of said like struggling to tell their story, inconsistency, and just not starting, basically.
yeah, I think it goes back to that saying if jeez. Oh, I'm like struggling to keep it in. I'm ready. It goes back to that saying the best time to plant a tree was yesterday. The second best time is today, right? A lot of business owners, they think that just because they didn't start on social media in 2011, they've missed the opportunity to grow. And that's not the case. Social media is still a powerful tool for you to actually share your story and build a loyal community that not just supports what you sell or the products that you give, but they actually support your mission. They support your why. And it's super unique because nowadays it isn't based on how many followers that you have. You could have a video go viral with having absolutely zero followers. The only thing that actually has to be on point is the story that you share and the message that you're putting out there. And I think what holds business owners back on social media is thinking about starting from zero and thinking that it won't happen for them, but that can't be further from the truth. The reality is, if you keep consistent on social media, you share your story, you connect with people, you build an actual audience that cares about you, you're going to be successful. So I think the number one thing that holds them back is their mindset. It's them thinking, I don't have the resources, I don't have a fancy camera, I can't do it. But like Ash, what you said, you can make millions just by using your phone. And it's the most simple thing. You don't have to have the most fancy equipment. You just have to start.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And they just miss it in like their messaging. It's often the story is probably like miscommunicated or they don't know how to do it and they just think like, oh, try to cater to like their own thoughts. But in reality is they just need to share it and just be passionate because of like this is your baby, just like how we treat LGC and this is like our thing. They need to be treating like their brand the same way. For
Mm.
example, we have like one of our like favorite brands right now that we're working with is Wild Society Nutrition. And thankfully we have like a cool founder and CEO and two-time champion, UFC champion TJ. He's able to personally connect to his product. He's able to share his story of why he built the products. Um, he has a community and he just like shares of like how he uses it every single day. And so he's constantly just sharing how good the product is, how good it is for him, and how it helps him become, has become a champion. It just makes it easy and like a no-brainer for his followers and audience to really just like buy into the product. Because in reality is like without TJ or without like him being the stepping stones of our society now, like you would have to try to find some other story or some other persona of just like to try to sell the brand. And right now I think we're in a social media like economy of founder-led content, which is just like people are connecting to who the founder is, why they should, why the product is the way that it is because of the founder and just really connecting to the story and how they built it. You know, people like to see the behind the scenes. They like to see the remakes, rebranding, whatever you're doing, so they could like actually buy into it. I feel like when we were growing up, marketing was a lot different than how it is now. People were just like, this is the cereal and this is how it is, and there's no other alternatives. Now there's so many different products and it's kind of saturated, but it's for a reason, right? It's because like they're shearing away from like all the bad and negative connotations that the other brands have, that they're trying to remake it and make you more educated and also like having you buy into who they are and the products. Yeah. What's your Do you have anything to add, or like what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, we're in the storytelling era of social media, where now more than ever, it isn't the product specs, how it looks, the aesthetic that matters as much as what the story is behind it. You could have a great product, but if you don't have an actual story to promote it, it makes that product go from A plus potential to negative C minus. You know, you have less opportunity to actually sell it because it is a saturated market. And the only thing that's going to differentiate you from your competitors is the story that you share, is the purpose, is the why behind the actual story and the brand, is the why behind the brand, right? And I think working with businesses like Wild Society, working with businesses that care to share their story, it makes our job so much easier because now all we have to do is connect the audience to the story and help them feel like they're their own heroes in their own story, right? You don't just give them a product and tell them to buy it because it's this person, but rather you tell them what problems this product solves and you help them be a part of the story as well. Because when they support this business, they're supporting your mission, they're supporting your vision. And I think that's one of the biggest things that's still missing with a lot of brands on social media is that they care too much about the grid aesthetic that they put zero time and effort into the actual value of the content. They think, oh, this is going to look pretty. It's immediately going to sell out. But again, that can't be further from the truth. You have to focus on delivering value with every single post. And that could be in the form of education, it could be in the form of storytelling, it could be humor. You could hop on these trends in an organic way to your brand, but not oversaturate it where all you can see on your brand is actually just trends. People can actually see who you are, the value you give, and it isn't just a pretty grid for them to look at. So lead with value, lead with story, and I promise you, your brand will be successful on social media. But yeah, Ash, I think that goes into, I guess, a follow-up question. What surprises clients before they work with us? Or no. So Ash, I've got this question. What surprises clients after they've worked with us?
I think it would be how easy it is to work with our team. I feel like we are super fun to be around. I mean, they've been inviting us to other places aside from work just to kind of like hang out. Um, and when you're working with us, we're just having fun on the job, you know? We're strategic and we know how to get stuff done, but we're also having fun doing it because that's like the fun part of our job, you know? And we're super prepared and organized by having like monthly strategy calls where we just like simplify everything for the brand or the owner, whoever we're working with. And our team is just providing like this seamless streamline of ideas, production, and shot lists, mood boards, everything. It kind of takes away the guessing game of like what the brand and marketing team has to do on their end. Um, and all of our work that we do is just like making that shoot day and content effective and something that actually works like for their brand. So I would say like yeah, throughout the time of us working together, creating the content and doing the content calendars and actually posting the content, like we're really organized and strategic. And in terms of actually being there on shoot day, whether the client wants to be there or not. We have like a good balance of like being professional, being strategic, but like also having fun.
Mm, I love that. I think for me, what surprises clients the most after working with us is how much we truly care, how much time and dedication we put into building not just their content on their grid, but the time before in pre-production. We send them mood boards on Pinterest, we send them content samples where they can actually see their brand come to life, and then they're not guessing what they're going to get on shoot day, and they're not guessing what we're going to deliver after, because we focus on the front end, get all the shots during the moment, and on the back end we're making sure that we're adapting the content as well. It's why we care so much about their brands, is because we treat it as if it were our own. And I think that's the biggest thing that stands out. It's what other businesses owner it's what business owners have told us. They've worked with other agencies that have screwed them over in the past, where they're like, hey, we're just giving you 10 videos and that's it. They're left on their own. For us, we're taking care of you from A to Z as far as your creative needs, and really focusing on how we can develop and innovate with the content. So taking that customer from initially, maybe they were reluctant to actually work with an agency because they've been burned in the past, showing them our process, how we care about the pre-production, how we care about that content shoot, how we care about the post delivery, and then having analytic reviews and having analysis reviews at the end of the month so that they could actually see what content drove the most growth in the business. And other agencies aren't going above and beyond. They're merely delivering the content deliverables and thinking that's good enough. At LGC, we make sure that content is simple and effective for you to actually grow online. That's a testament to like the work Ash has been doing on the back end with pre-production and post-production. That's a testament to the work Jason has been doing as well on the team to make sure that we go into these shoots and we know exactly what we're looking for. And it's a testament to how much we care to the actual customer. I think I kind of dove into one and two together, but I did want to ask you, Ash, what's the difference between content that gets views versus results?
The difference, I mean, if you know like marketing terms, I would say the views would be like top of funnel and results would be bottom of funnel. So essentially what that means, top of funnel is like having trends, following trends, relatable content, creating content that will go viral basically, and just building your brand awareness. Um, so like sharing the story, making it relatable, all of this stuff, controversial stuff. Result is the bottom of funnel, which is like content that actually has a call to action at the end. It's making your viewer or audience want to do something afterwards, like maybe comment content for, you know, this or for your free discovery call. And it's also, I would say, like advertising content. So it's like you want to have, you want to increase the view relatable content, your top of funnel content as a brand. And the results, I mean, the bottom of funnel, you want to have a few of those added in there because in the end, like you still want to make your audience and followers do something, but you don't want to like become too salesy. So you want to have more of the top of funnel and it's just sprinkle a little bit of the bottom of funnel content.
So with the bottom of funnel content, is that like specifically attaching an offer to it, or what's an example I guess business owners could take?
The bottom of funnel, it can be an offer. Um, I would say bottom of funnel is like actually sharing your story, kind of the perks and the perks and benefits of your product, and then telling them like you could find this product at this store at Target or at this place. That's more of like bottom of funnel. It's not really like, yeah, it's cool, enjoyable. It's not really that. It's more like informative. Um, so that's an example of like the bottom of funnel content. Views is like something you're following the trends, right? Making trying to make it go viral or hopping on like a TikTok dance trend thing. That's you don't have to hop on like every single one, but maybe something that's like you think that your brand could kind of relate to that or you could, you know, put your brand into that viral video. I know for Wild Society is the only one that comes to my head right now, but it was that viral. It was a viral video of that guy. I forgot his name, but he was, dipping the ice water, the expensive water, into the bowl, and then doing his whole like morning routine. Like a lot of people were jumping into that trend because that's something that anybody could do as like a founder, as a CEO, or just a person in the company, just to like kind of hop onto that. So that's an example of views. But you have to be careful with that because you don't want to just jump on like every single trend or creating that type of content, or else that's all your profile is going to be, and that's not what people want to see. They actually want to know who you are and what you are. um so yeah.
Yeah, that's super well said. I like how you gave the examples of like top of funnel, like that top of funnel being brand awareness, and then the bottom of the funnel can either be product awareness at a specific store or calling attention to a specific offer that you have for a limited time, right? It's like, hey, come to Target, it's 2 for 4, or whatever the case is, right? I think another way that we tell business owners what the difference is between these is understanding that when you're building a brand on social media, you're running on two parallels: the brand awareness effort, which is the top of funnel that Ash mentioned, and then it's the bottom where it's marketing. And a lot of business owners get branding and marketing confused. They think that's the same exact thing. But brand is the goodwill you give to your audience, whether that's information, it's funny videos, it's educational stuff. That's actually just value for the sake of giving them value, right? It's you trying to build brand awareness and build goodwill towards your audience. The marketing runs right under it, but that's more specific to the call to actions that you have, right? The bottom of funnel content. Are you promoting an Easter sale? Are you promoting a specific deal? You want to be cautious about doing too much of this because it also reduces the amount of attention your audience gives you, right? If you're constantly being sold to and you're constantly like being pitched at, people become tone deaf to it and they don't want to hear it anymore, right? So we tell business owners, if you're in this for the long run on social media, you will be super successful. But if you're constantly looking for an ROI on a video, on a picture that you posted, this isn't the game for you. Focus on just running ads and running deals. Brand awareness ultimately outwins marketing. That's why you see people like that Ashton guy that did the morning routine. A lot of people clowned on him, but he ended up getting more viral, right? He went from like 0 to like 10 million followers within a couple months. And that's because he stayed to the course. He stayed building his brand, as cheesy as it may look and feel on our end looking into it. He stayed the course, right? So if you're a business owner that's looking to grow on social media, understand that you're playing on two parallels: brand awareness and marketing. And brand awareness should be your goal in the long run. Marketing is those deals that you can sprinkle in, like Salt Bay. But I love that. Thanks for kind of bringing up the top of funnel, bottom funnel. I think that's the biggest misconception that people have right now with social media.
Yeah.
Um, but going back to what you had said earlier about people potentially being afraid of posting online, getting in front of the camera, what's one piece of advice you would give to those people that are reluctant with sharing content?
To just post it. I mean that I mean now it's easier than ever before, right? Like even now, like Instagram has paid attention to that, and they even posted out the trial reels, right? So it was like for the people that were like kind of shy of like actually posting content and wanting to see the results before you actually like post it. And so that kind of gives you like a little bit of feedback before of like how your content is going to perform. So they're even making it easier for you to post. But I think where people really get it wrong, or brands and business owners get it wrong, is being consistent. It's just like it's the same thing as like going to the gym, eating consistently, being trying to be healthy. Like you're not just gonna go to the gym one day and then see results. You gotta put in the reps, you gotta put in the work, and you gotta work hard to actually like build something and grow like a physique. You gotta do the same thing with like social media. You're not gonna get it right the first time. Maybe you need like a trainer, right? Where you have people that help you, like us, a creative agency that kind of like takes it off from you. but you're still the one that needs to put in the work, you know. You still need the guidance. We still need to know like what you want of the brand, how you want to portray online, and that's ultimately up to you.
I love that. I think it's like you said, building a brand and a strong presence online takes you being consistent. It's not you giving up just because your posting go viral after 1 month of posting consistently. And I love that you called that out because without consistency, your content's gonna flop. Because at the end of the day, you can't expect people to care about your content if you choose to show up once a month, right? It's a long-term play, and I think calling that out is super important. Um, for me, I guess the biggest thing that I would tell someone that's worried about posting content online because they're either afraid of someone's opinions of them or they're afraid that it might not perform. Worst case scenario, you posting out your content, you posting out your brand, your business, and promoting yourself and building an actual business and brand online. Worst case scenario, you're documenting this for yourself, maybe your kids, maybe your community. You're showing that you're documenting the journey and you're committed to growing as an entrepreneur. That's the worst case scenario. And that doesn't sound that bad because the best case scenario is you building an audience that is loyal to you and your message. And it's also inspired by your journey, right? I think that's what drives Ash and I building LGC as well, is knowing that there's a younger version of ourselves, proud of the work that we put in so far. So if you're afraid of posting, stop thinking about it in a selfish way. Be selfless, add value to those around you, and understand that the right community will find you if you stick to the plan. Don't be afraid of other people's opinions because, okay, I got this. Don't be
Oh
afraid.
no, you were on a good one, bro. You were on a good one.
Don't be afraid of the opinions of others when you're posting content online or trying to build your business on social media because I keep judging of others because those that mind don't matter and those that matter don't mind. So stick to the process. Be selfless and add
He
value to
actually
those
got
around you.
out.
Without further ado, though, that brings us to our last question.
I think something happened. I don't know if it's still recording me. I don't know if it's still recording. Should I stay? All right, so maybe I could stay. If it's still recording, then like, well, fuck it. So the last question that we have for you guys, one piece of advice that I would give to my younger self as I was starting LGC is just build better systems earlier. I actually have a couple, and I kind of wrote them down so I could see this in my future, and hopefully this could help you. Is build better systems earlier, stick with it, stick with it even when it's hard. Charge more in the beginning. Actually, no. Don't let anyone don't let anyone kill your creative joy because once it starts once money comes into the creative work, it could kind of be hard to take feedback off of your artwork or your work. Um, but just know it's part of the game and take everything with a grain of salt, especially what other people think because your shit can be hard as fuck. Um, and also know your worth. Be able to walk away when people disrespect you, your team, and don't let anyone take advantage of like your creative work. So yeah, let me try to leave and see if it goes through. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know Diego left, but that's okay. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.